all of a sudden,
Are you not entertained?
oops, not that one.
Now
Former DNC chair and governor of Vermont, Howard Dean, joins us now on the Young Turks. Governor Dean, it's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. We're always excited, as you can tell.
Right.
All right, so we had a healthcare summit. It lasted 7.5 hours. Did you get something positive out of it? Did you think it was a good idea by then?
Well, it turned out to be a great idea. It was fairly high risk on the part of the president, and I thought it paid off. He clearly had command of the facts. He was able to debunk some of the Republican myths. And I think he was able to show that there really was common ground between the Republicans and the Democrats, which means essentially by implication that the Republicans just weren't interested in having a bill. Now, having said that, I don't think the Republicans did badly either. I think the Republicans in the room did well. The problem with the Republicans was that their people out of the room were giving interviews that were sort of whacking the heart and talking hard-nosed talking points and all this stuff. So they, for once, which is unusual for them, were not on message, and their president, of course, was.
That's interesting because outside of John Boehner and a couple of others, yeah, they did seem to engage in policy to some degree. You know, there wasn't a lot of...
I think that's right.
So, and that was refreshing. So I agree, and I think it turned out pretty well, all things considered. But, you know, there's a downside, possible downside of that common ground idea that you were just talking about. That the Republicans can come out and say, hey, listen, look at all these things we agree on, so why don't we only do the things that we agree on?
Well, because politics is the art of compromise. And if you only do what the Republicans want to do, then you don't have health care reform. So you have to do, the idea is to do some things the Republicans want to do and some things the Democrats want to do. I have a wonderful compromise suggestion. Get rid of the mandate. You don't really need it. And use and expand Medicare to those over 55, so you can have some people get immediately into the plan as soon as the president signs it. You can do that through reconciliation. The Republicans have made a huge step forward by getting rid of the mandate. The Democrats have made a huge step forward by having a form of a public option, which is what their base really wants.
Now, on the mandate issue, I know that a lot of progressives weren't super hip on the mandate either at different points in the process.
It's the Republicans and the progressives.
Right. Now, having said that, you know, I think the president makes an interesting point that, hey, wait a minute, if we don't have a mandate, people are going to opt out of the system and there's going to be the free rider problem, et cetera. How do you address that?
That's an academic point. That was Senator Clinton's position during the campaign. The president didn't agree with it at that time. The president was right the first time. Here's how I know this stuff. We've done almost everything in the bill, and the truth is, in Vermont, 16 years ago, when we did all this, we did it much better than what's in the bill now. And one of the things we did in the bill was eliminate the ability of insurance companies to turn anyone down for any reason other than non-payment of premium. And not charge, we let them charge 20% more than their cheapest patient, which the Senate lets them charge 3 times as much as their cheapest patient. And we've had the system in place for 16 years. There's no mandate. It's true that we still have an uninsured rate of about 9.5%, which is actually low compared to most states. But we also have a vibrant insurance market. And so it really doesn't hurt the insurance market. So from a kind of an intellectual point of view, you'd like a mandate, but you don't have to have one to make the system work. And the mandate is not popular with anybody because no American likes to be told what to do by the government.
You know, of course, that's an interesting point, and you have got people who agree with you on the left and the right. But is any of this realistic given that President Obama did not even have a public option, let alone a Medicare buy-in, in his proposal on Monday?
Yeah, but the House does have a public option. And Medicare buy-in almost passed the Senate. Had it been not for Joe Lieberman, there would have been 59 votes for a Medicare buy-in. Medicare buy-in is what you really need from a political point of view, because in order to make this thing work and not have bad political consequences for the Democrats, you've got to have a significant number of people be able to get insurance after the bill is signed, not in 2013. And Medicare and Medicaid expansion is the only way to do that because it's the existing system.
You know, when I brought up Medicare buy-in with some folks in the Senate, one of their concerns was that you're going to have the sick buy-in first, okay, because they're going to want to government protection, right? Whether they have pre-existing condition, et cetera, et cetera. And the young and the healthy are going to still stick with private insurance, and so you're going to get it weeded out, and then the Medicare buy-in then is going to be more costly. Do you think that's a real concern there?
No, I'll tell you why. That again, you're getting the senators are thinking like insurance company executives. If you have to look at the overall amount of money that we spend on health care and whether it's going to be better controlled with a Medicare buy-in or not. And the answer is yes. Right now, let's just suppose they're right, and the people who take advantage of the Medicare buy-in are people who with extra health needs. First of all, they're under 65, so in general, their extra health needs are already less than the over 65 population. Secondly, those people are being paid for anyway. They're being paid for very inefficiently by going to emergency rooms, by getting community care often paid for by the taxpayers. So if you look at the whole system, the Medicare buy-in makes a lot of sense, even though it may have a situation where people who are sicker get it. It may skew the population. In the overall scheme of things, A, you get those people into insurance, many of whom are over 55 and can't get insurance because they don't have jobs and can't get jobs because the employers don't want to give them insurance. And B, they rationalize a system which is totally irrational now that is there in an organized system of health care.
Right. Now, you're almost certainly right about the overall cost of the system because a lot of those people, if they don't have insurance, wind up going to the emergency room, adding to the cost, et cetera. But I guess one of my concerns is the price of the premiums because as a Medicare buy-in, we would have to buy into it and pay a premium. Wouldn't those premiums obviously be, not necessarily obviously, but wouldn't they be higher than the private insurance premiums, which could just select the healthier people that are between 55 and 65?
Probably not, for two reasons. First of all, they could be higher for higher income people, but remember, if you offered this through the exchange, which is the right way to do it, the cost would be subsidized for people who are of less means. So they wouldn't be higher than anybody else's. Secondly, private insurance is incredibly inefficient. In the individual market, about 27% of every dollar goes to these huge CEO salaries that we heard about this week. It was Anthem testimony, advertising, corporate jets, and mostly return on equity, the shareholders. Well, Medicare doesn't have to pay for any of that. So Medicare is much, much more efficient than the private sector. That's just a fact. Now, Medicare certainly has its problems. It's not perfectly run. But their overhead is 4% instead of 27%. So it's unlikely, and this is why the private health insurance system hates any kind of public option so much. It's unlikely that they could compete in their present business mode, which takes a ton of money out of people's pockets and puts it in their own pockets.
We're talking to Howard Dean, who's a former chair of the DNC, of course, and former governor of Vermont. So that leads to the next issue. If Medicare buy-in or the public option are so popular, and they appear to be, when asked in polls, Americans seem to overwhelmingly support it, yet they get almost no support from the elected officials. Did we miss the elephant in the room today when we didn't talk about how the corporate insurance companies, et cetera, fund all of the politicians in that room?
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, the insurance company, this is an insurance company's dream. They love the mandate. They hate the buy-in, and the insurance companies essentially wrote this bill. Max Baucus is two of his staffers. One worked for WellPoint, the other worked for United Healthcare, and they had a whole lot to do with writing this bill. And that's when this bill sort of turned south on us.
So, are you still at the point that without the public option and without Medicare buy-in, are you still saying no, we shouldn't even pass this bill?
No, I'm not saying no anymore. And the reason I'm not is because, first of all, 30 million people will be insured. And second of all, just to be quite frank about it, I'm tired of being pushed around by the far right in this country. I think this bill is problematic. It certainly isn't health care reform. But I think at this point we need a win, and we ought to get one.
And then, so finally, that leads to the question of what's next. So we do the summit. People seem to be fairly happy about the conversation that happened. But in the end, my guess is the Republicans will still vote no. It's not like they changed their mind. So what do we do next then?
Well, I'm hoping that the House will prevail and that they will put in a Medicaid buy-in, because you can't really do a public option the way it was originally structured in the House. You can't really do that through reconciliation, but you certainly can do a Medicare buy-in because it's just an extension of the existing program. Do that, pass it through reconciliation with the other things that the president wants in it. I, frankly, would recommend strongly dropping the mandate. It's not necessary. It just makes people mad. It'll help the blue dogs. And then get the Senate to pass that, which I think they have the votes to do, and then have the House pass a Senate bill, and you've got some reform. But it's going to take it's a lot easier to say that than it is to get it done.
Well, see, Governor Dean, you seem to be one of the few people that is pushing for that. So I want to, because there's the Bennett letter that pushes for the public option, right? And that has.
Well, this is a public option. You have to understand, the Medicare buy-in is a public option.
Okay, so
it's a kind of public option, which the Senate came very close to adopting by 60 votes last time.
So you're interpreting the Bennett letter to mean, well, either a public option that was, for example, the robust public option that the House originally had, or a Medicare buy-in, so it could be structured in any way.
Sure, and most progressives that I know would be thrilled with a Medicare buy-in, too, which is one of the reasons Lieberman didn't vote for it after he said he would.
So is there a movement afoot there? Is there someone who... Because to me, the final conclusion is they keep saying, hey, you know what, we don't have the votes, we don't have the votes. So my thought is, well, why don't you have a vote and find out?
2 months ago. I think they do have the votes.
I think they have the votes, too.
They don't have the votes for what the House wanted, because you can't put that in reconciliation, but you can put what the Senate put in reconciliation. I think they can get the votes.
So shouldn't it be...
I'm going to have to break this off in about one more question.
Yeah, that's and that's the final question. Shouldn't Harry Reid put it up to a vote? If he doesn't, then we'll never find out if they had the vote.
Well, hopefully he will. We're going to find that out.
All right.
I think it's going to have enormous consequences for the election, because right now the Democratic base is demoralized because they didn't think they got the change they thought they were going to get, and I think you're going to have to give them some change, because if you don't, I think Congress is going to lose. I mean, Harry Reid, who I consider to be a very good friend and a terrific person, is going to lose a whole lot of members if they can't deliver something that looks like serious change to the base of the Democratic Party. That's why Scott Brown won. 18% of Scott Brown's votes came from Obama voters, and a ton of Obama voters stayed home. And you're going to see that pattern repeat itself in November, unless there's something that's pretty exciting in the health care bill, and right now there isn't.
All right, Howard Dean, thank you so much for joining us on The Young Turks. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Watch the live show at theyoungturks.com.